Today we will be talking about creatine, what to do after making an error, and some of the biggest mistakes people make in trying to improve their game. Welcome to episode 23 of Run It Straight. Question number one is anonymous. How do you bounce back during a game after an error or a missed tackle? I would say do something. An error in a game of football is just like an error in life. When something bad happens, how do you respond? And there's generally two ways that people respond. One, which is like what 99% of people do, is they look at all the negatives in a situation, and all they can see, whenever misfortune strikes, is all the problems and all the potential problems. They think of all the things that could go wrong and none of the things that could go right. And this is a loser attitude. Don't have a loser attitude, have a winner attitude. So the flip side of that 1% of people, whenever something happens, they look at the positives that can come out of a situation. So objectively speaking, A happens, whatever that happens to be. And that is what it is. But then afterwards, you get to be the one who gives that meaning and can decide whether or not it's going to be a good thing or a bad thing. True?
Yep.
Now, an example I'll give is we had one of the boys come in. I won't mention his name. He was in the high performance squad. He was coming in the mornings. And anyway, one morning he didn't show up, and as is the case when they don't get here just after 5, I give him a call or send him a text. I called, nothing, called again, sent a text, nothing. I'm like, okay, I don't know what's going on. Maybe he slept in. I'll speak to him later on that day. Anyway, he didn't get back to me that day, but then he came in the next morning and he said, I've just had the worst 24 hours of my life. It was terrible. It was just really bad. And I was like, is everyone okay? No death in the family or anything. He's like, no. So what actually ended up happening was he'll know that I'm talking about him, but no one else particularly will. He went out to dinner with his sister. They were in the city. It was somewhere around Darling Harbour with a couple of other people. Anyway, so they were in the restaurant. The restaurant itself didn't have a bathroom. It was sort of like you had to go out of the restaurant and go out a little bit to go and find where the bathroom was. Anyway, his sister went out and she went to the bathroom. While she was out there, some guy started hassling her. And he said he was going to come back and he was going to do this and this and this to her. Anyway, I was about to say his name then. I won't say his name. Anyway, he went out and I think she messaged him. She was in the bathroom and she messaged him, and he went out, and the guy who was causing the issue wasn't there. And he told her, look, it's safe, you can come out. Anyway, she came out. This guy came back and he started then giving it to him and talking about this and that with his sister. Anyway, our player was an older guy. He was 19, 20. He took his sister and he sort of pushed her and like, let's go. Stay away out of this, stay out of the drama. Anyway, this other guy's come up and pushed him and gone to throw a punch. Thankfully, our fella had actually been, not only was he quite a thick-set young lad, big and strong and powerful, he'd also done mixed martial arts and kickboxing and whatnot, and he knew how to defend himself, and he'd been doing that for a good, I want to say 8 years. Anyway, so this assailant threw a punch. He ducked underneath that and hit the guy once and knocked the guy out. The guy fell to the ground. And anyway, got his sister. There were other people that came in, called the authorities, the police came. They arrested him and they took him, and he spent the entire night in lockup and at the police station, and he was going to be charged with assault, and they were telling him all of these things that were going to happen, and he was saying, look, it was self-defense, I went there to help my sister. No, we don't believe you, blah, blah, blah. He said, look, there's got to be security camera footage around there. Anyway, so he spent the night, and that's why he didn't come in the next morning when we had our session. Anyway, the day after, when he came in, he's telling me the story. I said, well, obviously you're here now, so what happened? He said, well, there was this other officer who was telling me I was going to be charged with this and this and this, and they were going to see if they could deny me bail. Then someone came in with the security camera footage, which backed up what him and his sister were saying, and the police apologised and they released him. And he's like, it was just the worst thing ever. And so what happened, right? Objectively, I'm not saying that it didn't happen, but he's like, it was just the worst day ever. And I said to him, player's name, I said, this is actually the best day of your life. And he's looked at me a little bit confused and he's like, okay, this is one of those Joe things. How is it the best day of my life? And I said, well, what could have happened if you hadn't been there? And then his mind started to tick over and he's like, okay, yeah, it actually could have been pretty bad. And I said, and what if you hadn't spent 10 years learning martial arts? And what if you weren't as big and strong and jacked as what you are? And you obviously he's a rugby league player. What if you weren't used to physical contact and everything else? Like, what if all of these things weren't the way that they are? This could have gone bad in so many different ways, but instead you were there to protect your sister. You'll remember that for the rest of your life. She'll remember that for the rest of your life. She's okay, she's fine. So how is this not one of the best things? And then he's sitting there and he's like, I hadn't really thought about it like that. And that's exactly my point, is everything that we do in our society, everything is always on the negative. You look at the news, 5 out of 6 stories are negative, and then they chuck something in about, a puppy or a baby gorilla that's been born at the zoo or something, and then they jump back to the negative stuff. But what you've got to realize is this is all in your control. So bringing it back to what we talked about, if you make an error in a game, it's on you to decide whether that error is going to define you and you're going to go into your shell and you're going to forget about everything, or you can run with that and you're like, no, you know what, that error, people are going to watch it and say, man, you made that mistake, but then you ripped in and you killed people in defense, in offense, whatever it happens to be. Remember, the quality of a person is determined not by what they do when everything's going really well, but how they respond when things aren't going well. So if you happen to make an error in a game, then make up for that error and some. Get on the front foot. Don't just stand there and feel sorry for yourself.
Look, the best solution that I can think of is have short-term memory loss. Didn't happen. Put it in the back of your mind. Didn't happen. Didn't make a mistake. And just get back out there and keep doing your thing. So don't stop trying just because you make an error. But the best thing that I can say is effort level. If you do make a mistake, the next 3 plays show a lot of effort level and show that you're keen to the rest of your players in your team, that you're keen to make up for it. And I'm sure that you won't lose anyone's respect.
Yeah, look, everyone makes mistakes.
Yeah.
But people, they want to play with someone who, if they're going to make a mistake, which every single player in the team makes mistakes, that they're going to back that up by, he's made a mistake, he's not going to make another one, and then he's going to, like you said, effort on effort on effort. We talk about that in defence, like if you make 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 tackles in a row, that's effort on effort, but you want to see that in attack and defence following on from the mistake.
100%. Shows your character. Don't go into your shell, just keep trying.
100%.
Yeah.
Okay, question number 2 came from Tony. What is creatine and is it safe? My mum says it sounds like steroids and that I shouldn't take it. Firstly, no, it's not steroids. It's not a drug, it's a supplement. I copied some really boring text here from one of the NRL websites, nrl.com/wellbeing and education. This is something for players who sign contracts. I'll read a short excerpt from it. In signing your player contract and registration form, you agree to comply with the NRL anti-doping rules. These rules extend to the ARL, New South Wales Rugby League and all affiliated competitions. In other words, no matter which grade you play, you are still bound by the anti-doping rules. The rules prohibit you from taking drugs that are on the prohibited drugs list, inverted commas, which is available from the NRL, your club doctor and the ASADA anti-doping hotline. The prohibited drugs which receive the most publicity are anabolic steroids, insulin, HGH and ephedrine. Unless it's an emergency, you should only take medication supplied by the team doctor. Blah, 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 blah. They're talking about ASADA and the WADA code. There's some links on there which will take you to check your substances, where you can pop in whatever particular supplement that you want to take. Make sure that it is that it's not banned. We go through all of that stuff is there, okay? And I will get Spiro to put a link in the show notes to that exact page, so you can go through and read the full thing for yourself, and all the links are there to follow it if there is a supplement that you are concerned about. That's number 1. Next, creatine. What does it do? Give them a real layman's summary first. What does creatine do?
Creatine. I'd say the two biggest reasons why an athlete would use creatine. First one would be for recovery, so it speeds up the recovery process. And the second one would be you could use it as a pre-workout. So you could use it recovery post-workout, or you can use it before a workout. It gives you a little bit of an energy boost just to be able to get through, a cardio session or something like that.
Yeah, look, it has positive benefits both on body composition and on performance. It's pretty much, so for your mum's sake, so that she's not stressed, it's pretty much the most studied supplement with the most research supporting its use.
Completely safe.
Completely safe.
Yep.
Generally speaking, people that are using it, they see an increase in strength. I think the research indicates like between 5 and 10% for working sets.
That's the pre-workout?
Well, what we generally see from it is like if you're doing a set of 10 reps or 12 reps, let's say you're doing for 5 sets of 10, just for argument's sake, and you get 10 reps out in the first 2 sets, and the second set, maybe you get 9, and then the third set you get 9, the fourth set maybe you get like 7, and so you need to drop the weight down for that 5th set so you can try and stick closer to the rep range target. When you're taking creatine, instead of going 10, 10, 9, 7, you might go 10, 10, 9, 9, 9. You'll get a few more reps in at that given load before fatigue kicks in. Because of that extra workload that you can now do, you progress faster. So both from a strength point of view and from increasing lean tissue point of view. Now, should you take it? You can. Again, this is one of those how long is a piece of string, which we talked about last time. But like with any other supplements we always talk about, you've got to be, crossing your T's and dotting your I's first. Are you lifting properly with good technique? Are you using a sufficient load, or are you just doing the reps and going through the motion? Are you eating? Because, we're talking about gaining lean tissue here. Are you eating in a calorie surplus? If you're not eating in a calorie surplus, there's no point taking any supplements. Are you getting enough sleep in? If you're not getting enough sleep in, your body's not going to be able to recover and grow. So forget about taking the supplements. So you need to make sure you're doing all of those other things. Is the training volume high enough? And the volume is simply sets times reps times the load that you're lifting. If all of those things are good, then maybe this is something for you to look at. But for the boys who ask us this, their food tracking isn't on point. When they're in the gym, if we're not right on their backs, they don't lift enough weight, they're definitely not getting enough sleep because they're staying up late on their phone. And taking something like creatine for those people is a waste of time. I'd
say, if I was to summarize, I'd be, if you're doing everything correct and then you add the supplementation in, I'd say it'd probably help you by about 10%.
If that.
But
it works.
Yeah.
It works. I hope that's helpful. Question number 3 comes from Malcolm. What are some of the biggest mistakes you see players make when trying to improve their game as a whole? So we're taking this as meaning generally speaking. I would say a couple would be not having realistic goals and targets. So when it comes to any particular aspect of their game or of their training, is they're not breaking it down into tangible steps. So the old saying, a dream is not a goal. A goal has metrics, it has a timeline and has a plan for getting there. So you need something which is objectively measurable so you can be able to determine whether or not you're progressing down towards that. Like if you're trying to lose 5 kilos, it's very simple. If you're 105 and you want to be at 100, you step on the scales, is it up or is it down? That's very simple. The same thing with a 1.2 time. Is it getting faster? Is it getting slower? It could be with passing. You might have a target that you're throwing the ball at and then you realize that you only hit it 4 out of 10 times. Is it getting better? Is it getting to 5 and 6 and 7? Timeline. You need to have, I want to reach point A by such a point in time. Okay, and then finally you need to have a plan for getting yourself, or how are we going to achieve that particular outcome by that particular time. And a lot of times it's like, well, I just want to get better. It's like, okay, well, let's break that down. This is one of the reasons why we came up with the grading system, was to try to break down as many different aspects of the game into tangible and measurable numbers so that we can assess them, and then it's like, okay, these are good, these are not so good, these are the areas we want to work on. In 12 weeks time we're going to test them again. This is the program and the plan that we're putting in place to try and improve those. Let's run that program, that protocol, and then let's test it in 12 weeks, and then we see, okay, it's worked, it hasn't worked, it's worked somewhat, and then you tweak and you adjust. Second point that I would say that mistakes I see is not getting around like-minded people. You know, the old saying of you are who you hang around, or at least you will be. Show me your friends, show me your future. You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Those particular cliches or quotes, phrases, whatever you like, they've been around for a long time because they're true. If all of your mates are just interested in PlayStation, Xbox, recording TikTok videos, and you want to get better as a footballer, you need to get a different group of mates who also want to get better as a footballer. A big part of us trying to build the academy over the last 6 years has been trying to get the boys hanging around, because oftentimes there's one kid who really wants to do it, but he hasn't got anyone else who wants to. So this way we can start to put them in touch with other kids that do. So in their own time, and it started happening. It's pretty cool when some of them get together on their own to go down the field to do some defensive work. They're getting together on Sunday morning. Oh, where did you? Oh, 5 of us got together and we all went and ran 8Ks. You know, and the rest of the world says you guys are nuts. But if you've got those outcomes you want to achieve, then that's what you do. The same way people that are into music, they get together and they jam and they play. People that are into skateboarding, they go and they skateboard together. If you want to get better at football, then you've got to be spending time with other guys who want to get better at football. Chris, mistakes, there's plenty of them.
I was just going to touch on that a little bit, what you said.
Yep.
If someone thinks that you're crazy with the amount of effort that you put in or the amount of training or something like that, it means you're actually on the right track. It means you're going to lengths where other people are not willing to go to put you ahead of everyone else.
No, to get things that other people don't get.
Exactly. And that's what you need to do. But yeah, to touch on the question, I think one of the most common mistakes I see with a lot of parents and players is they get sucked into what's on trend or what everyone else is doing rather than finding someone to assess what's wrong with their son or their athlete in general, and then working on those areas. So like one of the biggest examples I can say is if you're looking to get faster, there's a lot that goes into that. If you're not stable, there's no point skipping to the end and going for a sprint coach to teach you your actual running technique. So yes, there's a place for that, but not straight away.
If your mobility's not good,
yeah.
Sprint coach. If you
there's stability, there's mobility, and there's strength, and then there's sprint coach.
Well, there's even before that. There's if you're just really overweight, no running mechanics is going to change that. You've got to get lean, get strong, stable, mobile. Then bring the
find the right advice, and stick with that, no matter what is on trend or what other people are recommending, who aren't professionals.
Yep.
Yeah,
cool.
That's the biggest one for me.
Yeah. Okay, sweet. That's all the questions that we have for you. Please keep sending them in via Instagram. If there's anything that you really want to know, give us as much information as possible, and we'll see you in the next episode. Cheers.